the insurance companies are incentivized to prescribe opioids. That's the article that came out the other day, and that's what I'm trying to explain about the danger of these middlemen called the pharmacy benefit managers. They're not middlemen at all. They're profit centers for the big insurance companies. And so even on opioids, you could have been prescribed a non-addictive, non-abusive pain cream after your surgery. It would have it's a topical that uses non-abusive, non-addictive ketamine, but in a topical form. You can't consume it, you can't eat it, you don't get high. There's no physiological high from it, but it works. It's very efficacious. Why would the insurance companies not prescribe that over a highly addictive, side effect riddled opioid? The answer is the insurance companies were getting rebates on these opioids. If you look this up, you can do the research. They made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars right beside Purdue Pharma, but they floated through all of it unscathed. So how does the rebate work
exactly?
So what happens is we'll go back to like a product. Well, here's another hot topic. Insulin will be a great example. Insulin's been out 40 years. Why is insulin 6 times more expensive than it was when it launched? The pharmaceutical companies are not making more than they did when they launched it. Eli Lilly's actually making less per vial than it ever made on insulin. Where is all that extra money going? That money is going to the pharmacy benefit manager. So United Healthcare owns Optum. Optum is a pharmacy benefit manager that negotiates rebates or kickbacks with the pharmaceutical companies. So when it came to opioids, they go to Purdue Pharma and they say, okay, Purdue, I'm just going to use simple math for my small brain. If it's $100 a month, they say, Purdue, if Purdue wants to charge 50, they'll say charge 100 and give us a $50 rebate. Okay. And so then United will show you, the patient, that your opioid cost them $100 that month, or whatever the prescription drug is. Prescription drug A cost them $100. They never paid the $100 because they got a $50 rebate. So they paid $50. What people don't realize is 80% of your health plan in America, 80% of Americans' health plan is covered by their employer. Most people are getting their health plan through their employer. So at the end of the year, these big insurance companies meet with your employer and say, Bobby Sue was on this opioid all year long. It cost us $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. We've got to raise your copays, your deductibles, and your out-of-pocket expenses because it's really running up our costs. But in reality, they never paid that. Then where this gets more sick and twisted is a lot of people don't understand this. Medicare and Medicaid after Obamacare has all been outsourced to the big insurance companies. So 60% of United's healthcare's profits are coming from Medicare and Medicaid. And how do they negotiate the Medicare and Medicaid prices? They negotiate it by looking at the average wholesale price in America and saying, we want a discount. Well, that average wholesale price is a bullshit price because they set the market, but they didn't pay that price. Is this making sense at all? So just follow the dollars. Okay, $100 a month. They didn't pay the 100, they paid 50. They tell the employer they paid the 100. At the end of the year, that employer is going to get hit with the cost going into the following year. All of those copays, deductibles, all that goes up. Then you, the patient, get hit. And so when they decide what drugs to put on a formulary, what drugs they're going to cover, it has nothing to do with the efficacy and what is best for the patient. It has everything to do with who gave them the biggest rebate. And they incentivize you to go to those drugs by lowering your copay and deductible on those drugs. So with opioids, they made it very easy to get an opioid because it was getting a rebate. But they made it very difficult to get a non-addictive product like a pain cream. And then eventually they just said, we won't cover pain creams at all. You're going to have to take an opioid.
With Donald Trump returning to the White House, this country has a unique opportunity, maybe our last opportunity, to save ourselves from the anti-American and anti-human left. But our efforts may be stymied by the deep state. That's what happened to the first Trump term. Permanent Washington stands in the way of all efforts to improve the lives of ordinary Americans. And right now they are scheming to do the same thing to the second Trump administration. They are determined to keep their stranglehold on power, regardless of elections, anti-democratically. That is a fact. So what do you do to fight them. How do you defeat the deep state? Well, one way you can is by supporting the Heritage Foundation, which is in Washington and understands exactly how it works in such a way that they're a threat and they're under attack. You know who's effective because they're the ones under attack. Heritage has a comprehensive plan to dismantle permanent Washington and restore the country to its democratic foundations. It's important. Visit heritage.org/Tucker to learn more and to support this critical effort. And when you make a gift today, you get a free pocket constitution to make certain that you are equipped with the founding principles on your person at all times. It's amazing to read it. Again, that's heritage.org/Tucker.
Then to go even deeper, that's just the prescription.
And this is what happened to your brother.
This is 100% what happened to my brother and what happened to millions and millions of Americans. And it's still happening to this day. And so I'll paint a picture for you. Imagine being a young kid with a spine issue and you're in pain. And this particular spine issue causes the sensation of burning and fire shooting into your hands, your feet, your extremities. And the worst of it all, a large percentage of these male patients with this spine issue experience burning and fire in their genitals. Fire and pain shooting into your genitals and extremities. In the insurance model with United Healthcare, you're going to have to go to a primary care first. That's going to take 2 months to get in with that primary care. You're dealing with this pain and suffering the whole time. Now, you get in with the primary care, they go, whoa, got 6 minutes with you. This is out of my wheelhouse. I'm going to refer you to a specialist. You go to a specialist. That's going to take months. Oftentimes, you have to argue with the insurance, right? Deny, delay, depose. You're going to argue with that insurance company, begging them to allow you to go to a specialist. Your primary care may even have to get on the phone and get a prior auth and negotiate it for you. Now you finally get in with a specialist. Specialist says, I want to order an MRI. A lot of times, the insurance companies will deny the MRI or delay it. So now you've got a battle for that. That's going to be another 3 or 4 months. The gist of it is, the average spine patient takes 6 to 9 months before they ever really even get an answer. And then they've got to negotiate to get into the surgery. And now you finally get the day in the sun where you're finally feeling like you're going to get relief and you're going to get that surgery that you desperately needed. But the whole time, they've been selling you opioids to keep your pain level down because that's the only option you have. So now you get your approval and you say, I found the best surgeon in the country. I want to go to this guy. That's not how it works. The insurance company tells you who you're allowed to go see. And they say, yeah, he's not in our network. You've got to go to this other doctor. And then that doctor botches the surgery. It wasn't the surgeon you wanted. You waited 9 months to get this thing done. And that surgeon messes up your surgery. That's what happened to this kid, Luigi. That can you imagine how he could have lost his mind and gone crazy?
Yes.
And what's unfortunate is that's what's happening to millions and millions of Americans every day. What happened is terrible. It's tragic. Nobody has the right to play judge, jury, and executioner, but neither do the PBMs and the insurance companies. And that's what they're doing every day. They are monetizing and printing money on the backs of Americans, monetizing our chronic disease and illness, making money off prescription drugs while denying surgeries, slow playing surgeries. And I mean, I could go on for hours because it just gets deeper and deeper. And I love to show people how, once I show people the magic trick, they will be able to see through the insurance's scam because it's a scam. I mean, they're gangsters. Like, they're the mob.
How much did this play out during COVID? I mean, these systems affected how we responded to COVID, correct?
It affects everything. I mean, everything under the sun. Again, they decide what gets covered, how it gets covered, what the reimbursement rate is, who gets in for surgery, when you get in for surgery. Then they can change the surgery. You know, the other thing is having owned labs and pharmacies and had all these touch points. I didn't know this. Like, I was naive like everybody else. You know, I just thought you pay your hard-earned money and when things go south, the insurance has got your back. Like, that's literally how naive I was. That's what I thought. But what you learned is HMOs are not health insurance. They are managed care. And what do I mean by that? You've got to think of it like, the analogy I use is think of car insurance. It's there if you wreck the fucking car.
Exactly.
And that's all it's good for. But they're not going to rotate the tires, change the oil, maintain the vehicle.
Right.
If you put your life and your family's life in the hands of these insurance companies, They are going to monetize your chronic disease. And I say it, if you see the average American doctor and you eat the average American diet, then don't be surprised when you die of the average American chronic disease.
So I think what's changed, and this is maybe something that it's taken me a while to figure out, maybe until right now, because I do think of health insurance that way, just as I think of collision insurance or fire insurance. Had a fire, used insurance, worked great. That's it. But the addition of chronic disease to America, where the majority of the population has a chronic disease, that means that it's not catastrophic coverage. It's a maintenance program that you're paying for.
Correct.
Okay.
And the challenge is every safety net throughout the system has been captured. And that's why I think the corporate capture narrative is so important. And that's what I was trying to get through to the Senate. Everyone talks about the speech that Eisenhower gave about the military-industrial complex. People forget there was a second half to that speech. It's very rare. Bobby Kennedy is actually the only person I've ever heard talk about it. And I was so excited when I heard him talk about it because I'm like, finally. And the second half was, if we allow corporate interests to capture our scientific community, then what we will find is we will lose the garage tinkerer. We will lose the innovator. We will stifle and suppress innovation, and everything will turn to basically profits and a profit-driven system. Show me the incentives, and I'll show you the outcomes. We have built a system based on quarterly profits and quarterly earnings throughout the system, whether we're talking about the pharmaceutical industry, the big health insurance companies, the hospital systems, the doctors' practices. Everyone is built into this ecosystem that is attempting to capture human lives and monetize those touch points. So everything that you do is a revenue generator for all of these various entities. And there's so much money being made off chronic disease. There's no interest in curing chronic disease. And so the National Institute for Health, like I said earlier, they are the seed essentially that grows into the tree, and they're the ones doing most of the innovation and early development of drugs, but they're doing it oftentimes through incentives that incentivize them to look at treatments rather than cures. And so the problem is we're just launching Band-Aids into the marketplace rather than healing the wound.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.